Hello. Let's see. I need a camera. That would help. Okay. Yes. There we go. What's up, everybody? This is my cat. This is Douglas. She watches football with me sometimes. Usually she just sleeps on my chest while I'm watching football. So anyway, I kind of wanted to watch some NFL draft prospects. We should probably promote this, huh? Like if I'm going to do this, we'll put this on Twitter. Maybe some other people will join. I should do that now. How do we do this? Permanent link. Cool. So this is what 2015 is like. You can just hang out with a bunch of random people. I added all the people. See if anyone comes now. Oh yeah, I probably should mention that. You'll see me like snort a lot or like that. I had tubes in my ears, and it's terrible because like my ears pop a lot, so they always open. It's not the most pleasant feeling all the time. But I do that to keep the pressure in my head, you know. It's not very pleasant with your ears popped all the time. But anyway, let's I watched the Colorado spring game today. It's very interesting. It wasn't very long. I think there was like 40 minutes of video. Let me see if I can show you. Let's see. We'll show you this. Okay, cool. So now you're looking at my screen, I believe. Google is pretty crazy. It really is crazy because you can have all of your information, which is nuts. It's like you're just going to have everything on Google. Google Sheets, Google Docs, Google Drive, Google this, Google that. It's Google everything. It's crazy. But it's not as intuitive as I would like, I guess. Yeah, I haven't kind of like, unless everyone had Google, then like it would make it easier. But Google Sheets, which is part of Google Docs. Here we go. So you are looking at my spreadsheet, which is probably like, I don't know, apparently there's no one in here still. Like, no watching this. The spreadsheets are loading. This is not my spreadsheet. Spreadsheet is this. This is not mine. This is the last one I must have been looking at, though. Let's see. Let's see. Who should we attribute this to? We could go through the spreadsheet. That'd be kind of cool. But I'm not going to do that because I don't know whose spreadsheet this is. But it's kind of interesting, I guess. Here we go. That's not what I wanted to show you. I wanted to show you what I thought of the Colorado spring game, which was, I don't know if it was today. I watched it today. This was on the Pac-12 channel. Pac-12.com. I show live feed sometimes. Colorado spring game. Bedgood. I don't know why was that even loaded up on there. That said I just. So kind of this is like, I don't know. I'm screwed around with some new ways to chart games. This is like not the most complex way. This is numbers, offense, defense, and then the only way you make on the list is if I think you make a nice football play. I'll put your number down, and then I'll give you a plus if I think you make another one. But you see this right here. This was the quarterback for Colorado, the backup quarterback right now. His name was, we got his roster right here. We can tell his name is, I think his last name is Gherkin. Let's see, 7, Jordan Girk, not Gherkin. That'd be like a pickle. Scottsdale, Arizona. 6'1", 195, junior. I think that he is a junior this season too. I'm pretty sure that is correct. Scottsdale Community College. So he is a transfer. I'll tell you what, like, what's his, Sean Lofau? I don't know how to say his name, you guys. Someone, I wish, this is why I wish someone else was on, checking this out. That would be cool. Because they could show me. Well, we don't need this anymore. That's March Madness. Which, by the way, the end of that Notre Dame Butler game was pretty awesome, except for the double dribble thing. Like, what was he doing? What is Twitter doing? Twitter is hanging out. Twitter, come on, come watch this show. This is not really a show, because in order to have a show, you have to have an audience. Like, maybe someone will watch this video after I record it, but right now it's just more like me talking to myself. So, which is okay. It's fine with me. I do it a lot. But the Colorado spring game, let's see. Okay, so they got this freshman too, this was confusing. His name is Isaac Miller. He's a left tackle. I really think he is a left tackle too. I only saw him get beat really bad, and it wasn't even that bad, but I saw him get beat once today. Let me show you myself again. We'll put myself back up there. Maybe this will bring more people in. Who knows? Looking at spreadsheets will scare some people, I'm sure. You don't want to bust out the spreadsheets too soon. But anyway, let's see. Yes, a freshman by the name of, I believe his name is Isaac Miller. He, on the website, he's listed as being number 76. Today in the spring game, he was number 73, or whenever the spring game was. I don't know if it was today or yesterday. But he's number 73. He's 6'7". I think the coach, which his name is escaping me, it's Mike McIntyre, I believe, is the coach of Colorado. He said he was like 6'7", 280. On the website, I think it has him at 265, but he looked good. I mean, he was stoning people and pretty good in pass protection. And I was kind of impressed with a few offensive players. But, then again, they're going up against Colorado's defensive line. And Colorado. Last year was Colorado State all the time. That's all I thought about. Colorado State, Garrett Grayson, Rashard Higgins, Kevon Cartwright, Ty Sombrero. They had a lot of talent on the offensive side of the ball, but Colorado's got a lot of talent on the offensive side of the ball. Nelson Spruce, yes, I don't know. You ever hear of him? He's a senior this year. And, really kind of comparable to Justin Hardy. But I think Spruce, he kind of reminds me of, Jordy Nelson, too. He's got great hands. I mean, he's got really good hands. He's 6'1", 195. That's what the website lists him at. Man, he just catches everything. Seems like he was today. I seen a lot of, Colorado. Not a lot, but a lot for anybody that's a normal human being that isn't a fan of Colorado football. I've seen a lot of Colorado football, and he is a pretty good receiver. He can catch the ball. I think he'll, it's so crazy because in football now, you don't see, Nelson Spruce. It's so funny because I compare him to Jordy Nelson because he's white, which is silly. But like I said, Justin Hardy too, in fairness, because he just is good at what he does. He's very good. He's a senior. He's a technician. He catches. He's got good hands. He's a very good receiver. It'll be interesting to see what happens with him this year. But I really like that Jordan Girk kid. I guess he's a transfer. I'm not positive. He's the exact same size as Nelson Spruce, but he was making some throws today that were just they were nice throws. So last year he redshirted. He practiced all fall at quarterback and dressed all 12 games. He was second to last recruit of Mike McIntyre's first Colorado class. No, that wasn't even last year. That was 2013. Shoot, it's 2015 now. So he played His sophomore year, let's see. Second at quarterback last season. He'll compete for a top spot in August drills. Outstanding spring. This was last spring, completing 36 of 62 for 496 and 4 touchdowns, no interceptions in the 4 main spring scrimmages. Bryce Bobo, he connected with him for a 67-yard touchdown in spring. Bryce, bro, oh, man. See, you got Nelson Spruce. You got Bryce Bobo. This is crazy. Like, maybe it's just because I didn't watch enough Colorado to see them lose. But I'm excited about Colorado this year, especially if they go, it's so hard to say. Like from what I saw last year of their quarterback, which I watched a few games of them. I think I saw him play Hawaii. I believe I saw him play Hawaii. I saw him play a couple other teams. I can't remember right now. Lou Fao. So he's a junior this year. 6'4", 230. So hard to tell. These biographies on, these college websites are just like, they don't update them ever. Like, and it's just such a weird time of year when they do. So it's hard to tell. Addison Gillum. Colorado's got some interesting defenders too. Young. They have a young safety. He's a freshman. Number 39, Sanchez. I'll tell you his first name. His first name is Jason Sanchez. He's a freshman out of, we were just talking about, Hawaii. Freshman out of Hawaii. I'll tell you what, though, man. Jason Sanchez, 6'1", 195, safety. They have another young defensive back, too. 23, Witherspoon. Akello Witherspoon. He's a junior, but also from Sacramento City Community College. So transfer. I don't know if he's redshirt. I don't know if this first year when he transferred. I could probably look into it. But in the spring game this year, 6'3", 185 is what they have him listed at. 6'3". This guy is long. And he uses his length. He had a nice breakup in the spring game, and he had an interception return for a touchdown. Like one of the first plays of the scrimmage. Akello Witherspoon, number 23. So it's somebody. Oh, boy. So, yeah, I'm literally talking about Colorado football right now. I watched the Duke spring game. That was like a month ago. We get into that. So we got Nelson Spruce. All right. We got Bryce Bobo. He's number 4. I'll tell you a little bit about Bryce Bobo. He's 6'2", 190. 6'2", 190. That's what he's listed at. No, that's a pretty good size. He's a sophomore. He was a freshman last season. And as a freshman last season, he made some nice plays. He popped out when I was watching. I went back and watched some games after the season of Colorado. It's not a team that I watch a ton of in season. Like I watched way more UCLA than I did Colorado last year. I watched way more USC than I watched Colorado. Way more Arizona. So, not to mention Washington, which is a team that either way, Colorado is not the team you're watching first in the Pac-12. Let's be honest. There's a lot of teams that have a lot of talent, but Colorado really, I think, does have some decent players. And if I really think if Girk gets in there at quarterback, I don't know. I watched the spring game. He just zips the ball. He confident in doing it. I really want to see him play more in another game against another. I want to see him play against someone else. But I was never the hugest fan of Lofau. I don't know how you say his name. They should have like pronunciation guide for these guys, I swear. But never the craziest fan about him. Very like the thing is like I think he's like kind of athletic, decent passer, but like never wowed you. Not me anyway. Like there was like glimmers of it. I don't even call it flashes. There's glimmers. I feel like he's all right. But I think this guy who I saw today play, Jordan Girk, and this is all the only time I've really ever seen him play. But he looks to me to be just every bit as good as Lofau. I think it's an interesting decision for Colorado this season. Last year, Josh Dobbs called that one. Watch the spring game. Justin Worley was not that impressive. And what was it, Peterman or the other one? Like, you watch Josh Dobbs and you watch the chemistry like with the receivers and these deep balls he's throwing, Josh Malone, like it was just unbelievable. I mean, it was just so natural looking. And then he has such great athletic ability. It's like, why wasn't he the starter from day one? I never got that. But Josh Dobbs called that one. Should have been the starter. I watched the Arizona spring game last year. I think I watched it in May or June. And right away, I knew Solomon. I pop off the tape, obviously. Just watching him throw and the way he ran that offense, like the other guys were just guys, man. They weren't special, and he just had it. So he was interesting. And Kaya is another example where all last spring we heard it was going to be the junior or the senior. I forget his name. See, this is what happens when you have too many names stuck in your head. It doesn't matter. Regardless, Brett Kaya is obviously, and we're never going to talk about that other quarterback again because Kaya was it. Like, you could tell. But I don't understand, why there's all this information. It's like, I think you can get a lot from spring games. I really do. I think if you watch enough football, you can learn a lot from spring games. Now, last fall, I went to this game, Notre Dame, Louisville. It was amazing. I actually made it on the field. Believe it or not, I made it on the field. It was fantastic. You know what? I think I can show you pictures. Let me see. Maybe this. Let's see. I'm gonna try and show you a picture. Actually, you know what? You know what I will do? Not that. See, I wish this was more intuitive. You know? There's a lot of features on here. If anybody wants to talk about football, that would be amazing. You know, I'll probably just keep doing this because why not? I love talking about football. I'll talk about football all the time. You can do it on Twitter. I don't have time for that. Like, I want to watch football. That's what happens. I try to make a website. I did, I kept up with it for the first 9 weeks of the season, college football. Like, the first 3 weeks are great. You should go read everything on there. The notes from the first you'll learn a lot of guys that I saw that I really like in the beginning of the season. I had East Carolina top 25 very early, way before the national media did. Not that that matters. But what I'm trying to say is, like, I love football. I watch. That's what I do. That's all I do. It's stupid. You know? So, yeah, we are live. Shea Fields, Nelson Spruce, Bryce Bobo, Shea Fields. I'm just saying. The running backs I saw today in spring practice, there was 3. I'll tell you who they were. You had the freshman. There was a freshman. He was number 21. Kyle Evans. Kyle Evans. They have him listed at 5'6", 175. Actually, that's not really that small for being 18 and being 5'6". 175, I weigh 175, and I weigh more than that. But I'm like 6 foot easy, 6'1", maybe 6'2". But he's 5'6". He's small, but he's not small. He's short. But he was interesting today. He ripped off this really nice touchdown in the spring game. He had a couple nice runs, like for first downs. It was, again, Colorado versus Colorado. But the other guy, 5'8", 175, Philip Lindsay, sophomore, very similar. I don't think he made as many splash plays, but he's more of like he seemed to be more like they were grinding him, like they expect him to be their guy going into this season. And that's kind of what the announcers are saying and all this stuff too. At the end of the game, near the end of the scrimmage, they ran a play. This Christian Powell, I'm not familiar with Colorado that much, so I never heard of him. He had a really nice run though. He's 6 foot 230, so kind of a bigger back. Well, obviously a bigger back. I think they said Carlos Williams was 6 foot. I don't think he is. He's like this guy, kind of like built like Fred Taylor, really. Or I mean, that's a long time ago, but a bigger back, not as big as like Adrian Peterson or Matt Forte, but more like Arian Foster, Christian Powell. But only ever saw him play like that one snap. It was a nice run. It really was. We actually ran through some, players, but I don't know what his story is. He's from California. See, I'm not talking about the NFL draft right now. So I can talk all day about the NFL draft. Like, we want to talk about the NFL draft, we can talk about the NFL draft all the time, but I'm more excited about the next year's college football players right now at this point. Not that I'm not excited about the NFL draft, because I'm really excited about the NFL draft. There's some good players. Watching college football this season, there were some guys that just pop. Shaq Thompson. Like, that's all you have to say. Crazy pop. Sure. And on offense too. Really, if you want to talk like Heisman candidate, like guy who should have won the Heisman but didn't win the Heisman, like, I'm a big fan of Miles Jack, UCLA, college football in general, obviously, but like, Miles Jack is very good. Marcus Mariota was very good. Melvin Gordon, Amari Cooper, very good. But like, we want to talk like football player. We want to talk like the best football player and what they mean to their team. Like, obviously, Washington, I don't know, if it's just a new coaching staff, the first year of that program, what's going on with Chris Peterson. Regardless, Shaq Thompson this season was amazing. He should have won the Heisman. I mean, seriously. Melvin Gordon's season was phenomenal too. Like, it was fantastic. But I saw Shaq Thompson score like 4 touchdowns on defense. It was ridiculous. He's 20 years old. He turns 21 on April 21st. April 21st, he turns 21. So he'll be 21 at the draft. Shaq Thompson. Yeah, I'm not really saying anything about him. Which you're like, whoa. I mean, what can you say? You got to watch him. Go watch Washington football. You'll see Shaq Thompson playing right next to John Timu. And then Buda Baker in the secondary. He had a great freshman season. Great freshman season. And yeah. I think Marcus Peters is one of the best corners in the draft. If not the best corner. I don't know. I got really excited the other day when I was watching Jalen Collins. I think I was watching LSU versus Florida. I think that's what it was. When against Hargreaves or Tabor or whomever, I think it was. Either or, good corners. But I was watching his hips, like how he just so smooth and seamlessly like flips his hips while running. Like he doesn't even slow down at all. He's really good at it. And he's super long, and he did great at the combine. Like, his measurables are awesome. He's got like everything you look for in a corner. Like, the thing, and it's funny too, because everyone's like, well, he didn't play enough at LSU, and it's true, But I'll tell you what, like I've been watching LSU for a while, and I always knew who Jalen Collins was. I've known who Jalen Collins was since 2012. And the only reason I know that is because like that's what I do. I write down numbers of guys and I go and look up their name and like so I'll know I've noted him before. I've noted him a while ago. And that was the big knock on him is that he didn't play a lot before this last season. And so he's not very experienced, which if you watch him, though, he's so talented, like gifted. He is everything you really would love in a corner. I mean, he looks very natural. He makes his mistakes, though. He is not polished by any means. But I really think he can develop into a very good corner. Marcus Peters, though. Anyway. Just all of football. How can you not love football? We can go into any team, man. Any team. You name a team, I'll talk about that team. I will talk about any team. I wish I had someone in here to tell me like who we should talk about. Okay. Let's pick a conference. Let's pick number 6 or number 4. Let's do number 4. That's the Big 12. And then let's pick team 8. So that's Texas. Texas Longhorns. So I'm just freestyling. Now I did see Texas play. The most recent game I think I saw them play was I think it was the Advocare. It was the bowl game. I believe that's what bowl game they were in. But Texas has a few sorry, I'm obsessed right now with finding out if that is what bowl they played in last season. Yes. It was against Arkansas. That's right. The reason why I was watching that game, now I remember, the reason why I was watching that game, I swear it's so hard to keep everything in your head, was because I was watching Draft Breakdown. I was watching Trey Flowers, but I wasn't watching Trey Flowers to watch Trey Flowers. I was watching Trey Flowers. Well, I wasn't watching Trey Flowers. I was watching the cut up of Trey Flowers so I could watch Darius Philon, the defensive tackle, number 91. There's no videos of him on Draft Breakdown. He was a redshirt sophomore. He declared early. He was 91 or 90. I believe that was what number he was. But anyway, I wanted to watch him, and it was a good game to watch because Texas, their defensive line, or offensive line, sorry, they weren't terrible. They usually have some decent players. But I'm looking at a depth chart now. I don't even know if this was the depth chart that they played with or not. But either way, see, I'm talking about Darius Philon, but that was the last time I watched Texas. And I haven't really. I did. The last game I remember watched during the season was against Oklahoma, and they stuck. Their defense actually played pretty damn well. I remember that part of that game. The defense was definitely playing well against Oklahoma. It was impressive. There was what is that? The Red River rivalry. That was a good game. And Tyrone Swoops was making some plays early on in that game. Man, I'm trying to remember who was catching him. It might have been John Harris. That seems right. I know Dajay Johnson makes lots of plays. Well, I saw him make some nice plays in the Advocare Bowl. See, this is why, like, I have notes on all these games. You know what's crazy too is that I kept them on my phone, and like, I broke my phone, and so I had to get it replaced. And I got, I had all my stuff on my phone, and I still was able to access it, and that was great. And so I was like really glad, because all my stuff was on my SIM card, you know, so it was all there. So even if the phone broke, all my stuff was on the SIM card. So anyway, I got a new phone, and I had to transfer all my photos onto the SIM card to put them on my new phone. When I was doing that, all my files got corrupted. So I lost all my notes from watching college football this past season. But I took extensive notes for bowl season. God, that was the worst day. There's bad days, and then there's that day. That's not a fun day. Like, I literally felt like I got, like, if you ever, like, it hasn't happened to me a lot, but when a woman leaves you, that's how that day felt. It didn't feel good. My cat's just jumping across the screen. Didn't feel good. Don't lose your data. It's not fun. We've got no viewers. We're famous. Anyway, so they got Malcolm Brown, the defensive tackle, or the running back. If you know. To me, Malcolm Brown has always, like, I think he's solid, but I think he's a first round talent. Honestly, he never was that guy to me. Like, I thought he was pretty good, but never screamed first round. And I hear a lot of first round buzz about Malcolm Brown, and I just never really saw it on tape. He never, they had their linebackers, Jordan Hicks and not Quandre Diggs. He's the corner. Jordan Hicks and Steve Edmond. Like, to be honest with you, I was kind of always a fan of Steve Edmond. He's not fast, like, or he doesn't look fast, or he's big. He's a bigger linebacker, from what I remember. Yeah, 6'2", 260. Okay, but he moves pretty good for 260. He played inside linebacker. Apparently, he's like a later round pick right now. He always was the guy that stood out to me. Whenever I watched Texas defense, like, a lot of times Steve Edmond would pop. Oh, that's right, Hassan Ridgeway. I'm sorry. See, okay, that's the guy who kept. The last time I watched the Texas game, the Advocare Bowl, Hassan Ridgeway, that was the defensive tackle who stood out to me. Not Malcolm Brown. Hassan Ridgeway. He's a sophomore last year. He'll be a junior this season. Caleb Blewett was a sophomore too. I talked a little bit about him. I believe I talked a little bit about him last spring. I think I might have wrote something up on him last year. He made a couple nice plays in the bowl as a freshman. Not this past year, but the year before. And, he hasn't really taken the next step where I thought he might this past season. To me, anyway, I didn't see it. He didn't scream, awesome. Some guys just scream awesome. You're just like, whoa. Like, I love Darren Lee, that linebacker from Ohio State. He is a football player, man. I was just talking to my buddy about him tonight. We were talking about Ohio State, and he's an Ohio State fan. And I don't know how you can't get excited about Ohio State for next year because they are loaded again. It's ridiculous. They're not losing anybody. They're losing Devin Smith and Evan Spencer. Like, please. And everyone, see, I'm not a Devin Smith fan. Like, first round talking Devin Smith is garbage to me. I don't see it at all. Seriously, I don't understand it. But don't worry, Ohio State. One of my favorite players, offensive players. Like, everyone would say, well, who's their best offensive player? Man, I think Jalen Marshall is their best offensive player. And I saw what Ezekiel Elliott did. It was impressive. I saw it in those games. And he got better. Or I don't know if it was him or if the whole team. What it was, he got better. But Jalen Marshall, man. Jalen Marshall is awesome. Pure and simple. We'll see. He was a freshman, you guys. I mean, Ezekiel Elliott didn't do that to me in his freshman year. Never. Wasn't Jalen Marshall. See, now I'm supposed to be talking about Texas. Texas isn't that exciting to me. You know what is exciting to me about Texas is Charlie Strong and the recruiting class that they just had. They did just get some decent recruits. You see, this is new for me. I haven't dove into recruiting and high school recruiting yet. This is something that I've started to watch. Like, I just finished watching all of the high school all-star games and graded out the players that I thought performed the best in the high school all-star games. Texas definitely has some young players coming in that will contribute on defense this year. But the one guy who just stood out like crazy to me was Talon Mack from Texas A&M. He's a recruit for Texas A&M. It was awesome. Awesome in the Under Armour All-American game. Like, I'm thinking that's what one it was. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. It was the Under Armour. Sorry. I wonder if I'm on YouTube right now. See, that's what I kind of got to find out. I don't know. Maybe we are. Yeah, I guess we are on Google Hangouts on air. But no one's watching us. We're not famous. That's fine. Oh my goodness. You can listen to a scanner feed. Or we could talk college football. See? Kind of new to Google Hangouts. It's cool. I really do think it's pretty neat. And I didn't realize there's so much stuff you can watch on here. It's unbelievable. Like, I'm looking through this right now, and there's just a ton of stuff. There's just a ton of stuff. I gotta find this. Let's find my video. Oh no. Okay, hold on. Oh, cool. Okay, so if you type in NFL draft, oh, whoops. No, I just closed it. Okay. Come on, guys. Where is everybody? Someone. Oh! Someone's watching! Hello. Sorry. I'm sure they're just exiting out of the window right now as we speak. They can't. Like, look, I have Ninja Turtle. Drapes, you can't leave. I must be kind of all right. And I wanted to talk about college football. And I don't know who you are, and I don't know how I don't know what team. I wish there's got to be a way for you to type to me or something. I don't know how to use Google Hangouts, but it seems pretty cool. Anyway, talking with my friend today about Ohio State, and we were just talking about how loaded they are at pretty much at every position, like every position. But before anyone was watching this, I was also talking about the Colorado spring game, and I watched that today, and there was some players that really stood out, especially the backup quarterback, Jordan Girk. He was, I believe he's a junior this year, a redshirt, but a transfer from Scottsdale Community College, 6'1", 195. He threw an interception, like first play of the game, But after that, fantastic. Like throwing the ball into tight windows, very good. See, it's funny because like if you're like watching this video on YouTube after I'm done recording it, when it goes up on the website, I'm talking to my cat. But if you're watching it, just if you were watching it, I've already talked about all this stuff. I was just talking to myself and my cat earlier. Just stupid. But no, we're talking about Texas, and how I think Malcolm Brown is overrated. I think Hassan Ridgeway, the defensive tackle, who's a sophomore there, though, is definitely a player to keep an eye on for next season. People could tweet at me. I would know. I could talk that way. I'm at NFL Draft Gifts. Well, at Draft GIFs. It's DRAFTGIFS, or at Jaguars130. Cool. Like my phone is giving me an alarm saying I'm live on YouTube right now. Like, duh. I just opened it up. But anyway, let's see. Let me see if I can bring up like chat, question and answer. Maybe this would be good. I'm gonna open this for the viewer. I don't know who you are. I don't know if you even have access to this. YouTube is Google is crazy. I was talking a little about how Google is nuts. See, I stopped talking about football and they left. Don't talk about Google. That's the first thing to know about Google Hangouts. Don't ever talk about Google. If you talk about Google, people will leave. So don't talk about Google. Talk about football. No, but I was watching football the other day. I actually have a video on YouTube. I recorded myself. I made like an hour and a half video. It's an hour and a half long. I was watching Jake Ryan. I watched Jake Ryan. I watched Craig Mager, corner from Texas State. They have David Mayo too. And they have some nice, it's like some guys that, has some flashes of ability. I really think Craig Mager could make it in the NFL. I would draft him. Maybe, late, but I think he definitely has some ability. I talked about Craig Mager. I talked about Jake Ryan. I talked a little bit about Byron Jones and about not just his freakish combine he had, which it was pretty amazing. I will say that. But I also talked about it on the field, Byron Jones, was not a guy that I wasn't familiar with. He always made splashy plays. Man, Twitter's crazy right now. It's very strange. Sorry, I have like attention deficit. I'm all over the place. And I've never done this before, so I don't know what to talk about. I could give someone, if you have Google, if you have a webcam or even a microphone and you want to join, actually, I wonder if there's a way to call in. I don't know about that. Probably not. That would be cool. There are other websites for that. But we can talk about underrated draft prospects. We'll start with Grady Jarrett because clearly people still don't understand that Grady Jarrett is a big reason why Vic Beasley had as much success as he did at Clemson. Grady Jarrett is awesome. Grady Jarrett, to me, if he was bigger, he would be easily a first-round talent. Like, if we were to talk Malcolm Brown in the first round, that's kind of, I feel like that's disrespected Grady Jarrett, like straight disrespect, because I think Grady Jarrett is a better football player than Malcolm Brown. Actually, there are, I'd rather have Grady Jarrett over a lot of Jordan Phillips. Give me Grady Jarrett. I'll take him every day over Jordan Phillips. Malcolm Brown every day over him. There's so many guys, I mean, what's something cool we could do? We could break down someone's list. Mock drafts. Those are great. I love mock drafts. I'm serious. No, I kind of I did put up one as I say that. I did put up 3-round mock draft, which is so stupid. I hate mock drafts on our lads. I did the our lads mock draft challenge. If you're not doing that, it's fun. You have to do it. You have to put up, your 1 through 7 round. You can do a 7-round mock draft on there, and they have a mock draft challenge every year. It's very fun. You don't have to be the I was gonna say the effing huddle report. You don't have to, get enlisted. You don't have to have your own website where you're posting things. Which is kind of the reason why I did make a website this past year. I kind of wanted to do the huddle report. I have top 100 lists for the last few years, and I did okay. Like my first year, I think I had 67 or 70 something out of the top 100. Maybe it was 77. So it's okay. It's not super great or anything. As far as first round mocks go, I do okay in that too. Usually all right. I'll get 24 to 26 guys right, which is not bad. I mean, if you get 75% of the first round right, it's not bad. And a lot of the player to team matches. But mock drafts are so stupid. They don't make any sense because, well, I mean, I guess, but they're not if you care about football, if you watch football, a mock draft is only it's just cool. It's just but it's not real. I don't like mock drafts because they're all based on hearsay and they're all based on things that we hear about. They're not based on who you think. And I think that's what's fun about the draft is who you think is good. Who do you think are the top 32 players? And, usually, honestly, there's never really 32 players that are first round talents. I mean, there's a lot of guys that are on that cusp, but if you're just you're sure this guy is a first round talent and he's gonna hit, he's right. There's usually not 32 of them, and every team has their own opinions, and so that's what I think is kind of cool about the draft is making your own top 100, making your own, and so doing a mock draft's okay. I kind of wish there was a website that did your own power rankings. If you want to have your own power rankings, your top 100 power rankings, and just kind of see how that, would go. Because that's what's fun to me, man. I will show, I have, I've got my old file from 2012. I had Russell Wilson 24th or 25th overall at that draft. He was my 4th quarterback. I know. I had Tannehill, RG3, and Andrew Luck in front of him. I had Whedon 5th. He was 32 or 33. But so that's funny. No, but Whedon was ready. He seemed to be ready to step in. And I think he really was. He had some nice games. If you go back, I think it might have been his first season, the game against Baltimore, it was either his first or second season. That game against Baltimore, he came back. Whedon just didn't have the pieces around him right away. Or maybe he did. Like, he did have a good offensive line. Let's be serious. But, like, I guess he didn't have the help on the outside. But he wasn't bad coming out of, what was it, Oklahoma State. And when he played with Justin Blackmon, I mean, and it's crazy because I wasn't the biggest Justin Blackmon fan. I had Justin Blackmon not in the top 5. I had Justin Blackmon like 31st, or he was right before Brandon Whedon. I had him 31st. He just scared me a little bit. You know, he was awesome run after catch, but like I get like scared by off-field stuff, and like, which is crazy because I don't know the whole story. And I'm kind of feeling that way about Jameis Winston this year until I listened to Daniel Jeremiah's podcast. And his latest podcast, he had Jameis Winston 360. It was all Jameis Winston. Talked about pretty much everything Jameis Winston related. And it was he was really selling Jameis. But I'm kind of buying it. Like, I don't think that here's the whole thing is like, what I'm kind of buying is that maybe that one incident was, you know, I'm not really sure, but apparently it's not a big deal in the eyes of the law, and it wasn't a big deal in the eyes of Florida State. Scares me. In light of all the stuff that's happened this past season, domestic violence, domestic abuse situations, you know, it will give you pause. You're not going to be like, Jameis Winston is a great talent on the football field. Like, the competitive nature of that guy, second to none. Very, very competitive. Wants to win. And he's a smart football player too, you know. Like, well, that's what people will say. And he does. I think he does have a good grasp of what is going on during the football game. And you can see it, like the way he'll adjust in the second half. And I just saw the picture for the YouTube link that I sent out earlier, and it's hilarious. It's pretty funny, I gotta say. But anyway, Jameis Winston, listening to the Daniel Jeremiah podcast, Move the Sticks podcast. It's a good podcast. Not my favorite one, but I like listening to Daniel's thoughts, which sometimes he's really way off base with me. I know he raves about DJ Humphries, and while I can see how DJ Humphries might have some, you know, traits, slower body traits that you want in an offensive lineman or tackle, I don't know if DJ Humphries is the guy that Daniel Jeremiah sees. Maybe he is projecting him. Maybe he sees him in a different way than I do, but I just don't see it as clearly right away. Not with him. When I watched Florida, I thought Trenton Brown was the best lineman on the team. He was number 74. Or was it? I think that's right. I think it is Trenton Brown. I'll double check for you because I don't want to tell you something that's not true. But or Trenton Brown. Yeah, it's Trenton Brown. Number 74. I thought he stood out a lot. I mean, for as big as he was, he moved very well. He was a transfer. Boy, I thought he moved pretty well for his size. But he played guard. He played right guard most of the season. They had Chaz Green at right tackle and DJ Humphries at left tackle. And you know, those guys had been there. Maybe Brown just couldn't, you know, step into the situation, but I really was impressed with him. I don't know if he can play tackle, but he's very athletic on tape. If you watch him, he gets going for a big guy. How did we get to Florida? Well, we're talking about DJ Humphries and Daniel Jeremiah's love affair. Maybe that's because his name is DJ. I think that's really what it is, because people call Daniel Jeremiah, they call him DJ, and I've heard that if you like your name, you like hearing your name, and you like saying your name, it makes you feel good. I think maybe that's why he likes DJ Humphries more. It's very possible because I don't really hear that rhetoric out of a lot of other people, maybe not as strongly anyway. But I haven't listened to a lot of football, other guys. Like Mike Mayock, I feel like I remember watching the Senior Bowl and seeing some of his guys, which, I mean, we see pretty much eye to eye. But there was some guys he was surprising me with this year, where I just didn't agree. But Move the Sticks is a good podcast to listen to. Totally off topic here. I just decided to come home. I literally came home. I was at the bar. It's Saturday night. I got here at 1 o'clock. It's 2:20 now. So I've been probably talking on YouTube for an hour. But I was talking to my buddy up at the bar, and we were talking about Ohio State. And I got so excited. I just wanted to come talk about football on the internet. And maybe there was someone out there. Maybe not. Doesn't look like anyone's out here. But what's the link on Twitter again? Oh, that's right. I was talking about the Twitter picture. It's bad. It wasn't good. So I'll tweet it out again and see what happens. It's so late. I mean, unless you're on the West Coast. Like, if you're on the West Coast, maybe you would be up still, because it's like 11:20 out there. But if you're on the East Coast, it's late. I kind of just want to do this all the time, like read Twitter. I always talk about, I could just talk about what people are saying. I was listening to, which I don't listen to either, but my boss, he was playing Ross Tucker football podcast. And I used to listen to Ross Tucker all the time when he was on Football Today on ESPN. That was a good show. And I haven't listened to a lot of Ross Tucker lately, but oh man, the podcast I listened to today was awesome. Why? It was because Greg Cosell was on, and I love listening to Greg Cosell's takes. Sorry, Ross. I mean, Ross, he's good to talk football with for sure. And I would love to talk football with Ross Tucker. But Greg Cosell, man, I really see eye to eye with him on a lot of players. And he just explains football in a way that makes sense to me. Like any random person watching football on TV or on your internet, watching a player, he explains it really simply, so like you could understand what he's kind of saying, because he's not using so much jargon and getting into, all the jargon people like to talk about with prospects. He kind of just gives you a good feel of where players win and how they translate to the NFL. I think he is very good at spotting. I think he's one of the best evaluators of translating talent from college football to the NFL, because I think he understands not only what the NFL is, but also, what traits you need to succeed in the NFL from, college football. Like we were eye to eye on Johnny last year. Greg Cosell pretty much said he could do all of this, but is so unconventional that he's not likely to succeed. He didn't want to say, like, it's the same way I felt. Like, you don't want to say he can't do it, but it just didn't feel like, to me, it didn't feel like he was going to. You didn't hear, like when Geno Smith came out, and I was a big fan of Geno Smith, you heard a lot of people say he's watching film a lot. He is a film guy. Or this year, Jameis Winston, film guy. Like these guys want to get better. You never heard that about Johnny Manziel. And that's not even the biggest reason why I didn't think, he wouldn't translate. Obviously, that's very important. Very important. You want to hear that these guys are into getting better and watching film and breaking it down, because that's the only way you learn more about football, is to watch more football, or play more football. But watching football is a good way to learn a lot about football and what a good football player it does, But that wasn't the biggest thing, like if you watch Johnny on tape, I remember I was over here at my house watching Texas A&M last year, after last season, with my buddy Eddie, and we're watching Texas A&M, and we were watching, obviously Mike Evans and Johnny Manziel, and this was in March, maybe like last March or February, and I was just like, we're watching him, and he's great. Like he's ridiculous. He does so much crazy stuff, runs around till he finds open receiver. But when I was watching him, it's like really telling my buddy Ed, like, okay, yeah, he does all this stuff. He buys time. But what really stood out to me was how great Mike Evans was at continuing to like create separation downfield. And then not only that, but to go up and make catches and contact catches and finish when he got the ball. And I told Eddie, I was like, Mike Evans looks like the top 10 pick. Like Johnny Manziel is not the top 10 pick. And but I also told my friend Eddie, I said Johnny Manziel could be like the ultimate of ultimates for Johnny Manziel, of the player that if everything clicked and everything just went the right way, I think he really is special. He could have been like a Brett Favre, and I say that like a past tense, like he can't be. But it's hard for me to believe it, because for one, I don't think he cares enough about football, and really that's all it comes down to. I don't think he cares enough. And, either your heart's in it or it isn't. I think he was talented, Could Johnny Manziel be Brett Favre good? It's really hard to say. Like you saw it at Alabama, what type of player he can be. But the only reason why it worked at Alabama is because those guys aren't NFL players. He's not playing against NFL players. You know, he didn't have to try as hard. I think in the NFL, you know, you're not going to make it if you don't try. You can't just float through the NFL. There's not a lot of guys that are just naturally gifted, athletically talented enough to just breeze through in the NFL. It doesn't happen. So I honestly thought going into this season, the beginning of this season, the last season, that Connor Shaw was probably a better option for the Browns this year at quarterback than Johnny Manziel. Obviously, Brian Hoyer was the best option, which don't even get me started on what the Browns did with that. I'm not even a Browns fan, and that organization pisses me off so much. Like, they piss me off. They do have some pieces, some really, really nice pieces on that team. But man, do they make some shitty decisions with key parts of the football team. Like, I really wasn't happy with them taking Manziel last year. They got Justin Gilbert at 8. That was awesome for them. You know, great. Here's a guy who was excellent at Oklahoma State. Justin Gilbert. I'm pretty sure it was Oklahoma State, man. But not only could he play defensive back, cornerback, but he was a good special teams player. When he got the ball in his hands, he's super electric. But then they traded down. I think they traded 3 times. They've done this before. They'll trade down 3 times, and then they'll take a quarterback. And last time it was Brady Quinn. Traded down 3 times, drafted a quarterback at 22. Teddy Bridgewater was on the board, everybody. Derek Carr was on the board. I wasn't even a big Derek Carr fan. I don't even care, about Derek Carr. I thought Derek Carr was really good in post-game interviews. I thought he had a nice arm. Wasn't crazy about him. I really liked Devontae Adams. I thought that guy was pretty special. I was never crazy about Derek Carr. I think Derek Carr could be a good player for sure. I like him more than Manziel coming out, that's for sure. But I was big into Aaron Murray last year, Teddy Bridgewater, and Blake Bortles. Those were my top 3 guys. But how could you pass on Teddy Bridgewater? Like, at 22, why? Like, it really pisses me off. I'm not a Browns fan. It pisses me off, though. Like, it really, really upset me. But then they have nice players. They went and they got Joe Bitonio, and they plug him in at guard. That was a good player. I really thought he should have played tackle. The first game, or it was like the first game or the first preseason game, I don't remember. I think Mitchell Schwartz was playing right tackle, and they have Bitonio in at guard. And Schwartz is just literally I watched a guy fly past him. Schwartz didn't even take his hand off the ground. The guy's already in the backfield. The defensive end's already in the backfield. And that was in preseason. And I remember, I think that was the third game of preseason, or second. But I remember thinking, like, why aren't they playing Bitonio at tackle? Like, I think Bitonio totally could play tackle, and I always thought Schwartz would be better at guard. So it didn't ever make sense to me. And I saw Schwartz get beat a lot outside this year. But, I can't say that I watched enough of him specifically to say that he couldn't play tackle. But I always liked Schwartz at guard, and I really thought that Joe Bitonio could play. He could definitely. I think he really could play right tackle in the NFL. But the Browns, they have nice pieces. They have some good players on the team. They aren't. Barkevious Mingo was my number one player in 2013. Number one. The Browns got that right. Tell me they didn't. I mean, really, if you watch him play for the Browns too, he is awesome, man. He is awesome. And I always said Barkevious is always going to be good. But if you put like a couple other guys around him, like he'd be phenomenal. Like you put Barkevious next to Ndamukong Suh or something like that. Like if Barkevious Mingo played for the Lions last year, I mean, they're not even the same, they're not. The Browns run a 3-4 and the Lions run a 4-3. Yes, I understand that. I always thought Barkevious could play a 4-3 defensive end. I think he could play with his hand down the ground. But, I mean, he does everything good. I mean, I just think he's a natural pass rusher. And, man, does he have a nose for the ball, too. He's just a smart football player. Always took the right angle. There's a lot of good things to like about Barkevious Mingo. He was my number one player in 2013. And I really do think that the Browns got that one right. But, man, they screwed up with Johnny Manziel last year, and that pissed me off. I don't hate on him for Justin Gilbert. I thought Justin Gilbert was good. Jason Verrett was my number one corner. But I understand why they took Gilbert. He is big. He's physical. He's long. And he had special team ability. When he's a playmaker with the ball in his hands. But, that's not what I really care about, number one, with my corners. With my corner, I want them to just be able to cover, just cover. Jason Verrett was the number one corner in the draft last year. This year's number one corner is up for debate. Everybody's all about Trey Waynes. I got to watch more Trey Waynes. Trey Waynes never impressed me during the season. He never stood out. Even when I watched Trey Waynes last year, Michigan State across from, what's his name? Kid who went to Cincinnati. I don't remember it right now. It doesn't matter. Trey Waynes never jump out at me as like he's that guy. Yeah, his combine numbers are awesome. He's fast. But do I think he's awesome in coverage? Like, I don't think he's the top guy. No, I don't. I don't think Trey Waynes is the top guy. I really like Marcus Peters is very solid in coverage. Watch him against Brandon Cooks. That says it all for me. If you like, because I honestly think Brandon Cooks is one. Like, if you want to talk next great Antonio Brown type wide receiver, it's Brandon Cooks. He'll show everyone this year. I don't doubt that. But Peters held him down. No question. And people worry about Marcus Peters off-field concerns, as they should. I think Marcus Peters is confident in who he is as a player. And I like that cockiness. He obviously, whatever it was, I don't know the full character concerns on Marcus Peters. He's not the same player that Jameis Winston is. He's not getting picked apart by everybody in the media. But I really think he, on the field, is as talented as Jameis Winston for, a guy coming out at his own position. Very talented player. But I don't think Trey Waynes is the top guy. PJ Williams shows a lot of good things. But he does get beat from time to time. I feel like he didn't get his head around quick enough sometimes. And a really good receiver and a good quarterback will take advantage of him, you know. But I think he could be a guy that's into a very good corner. Kind of reminds me like of Xavier Rhodes. He's not as big or is built as well as Xavier was coming out of Florida State, but I think he's pretty much he's right there with Rhodes as far as talent goes for me. I think he's just as talented as he was. So I wouldn't be surprised if PJ Williams goes at the end of round one. Trey Waynes will go in the first round just because that he ran a 4.35, and because he is long, he's explosive. I mean, he's got all these traits that people are going crazy about right now. But the 40 was awesome. Everyone loves that. But yeah, we knew he's fast. He's a freaking track guy. I mean, he did it. He did it his whole life. So obviously he's fast. But does that mean he's a good football player? I don't know about that. We were in the video I made the other day. I was talking about physical corners, and if you're smaller, you got to be a physical corner. And we were talking. I was watching Craig Mager, and Craig Mager is a very physical corner. Like, ooh, and you love it too. You love watching him make tackles for loss. And Marcus Peters made a lot of those plays too. But see, and that's the difference between a guy like Peters and Mager. Mager played against smaller competition at Texas State. He made a lot of good plays, but Marcus Peters did it on a bigger stage. He's a bigger athlete. He's more athletic. You can't really compare those guys, but like you can like both of those guys at different parts of the draft. I mean, that's what's cool about the draft. I don't necessarily like. That's what's hard about the draft. Like that's why when I have a big problem with making lists is like I'll like a guy who's a first round talent, but I'll like a guy just as much who's a 5th or 6th round talent, or grade. That's where people are projecting them. I'll like them just as much, but I think that's really what separates the great GMs from the good GMs, or even there's really not a ton of great GMs. Ted Thompson finds a lot of good players, especially receivers. So, and that team, that whole team, the Packers' whole team, they're all drafted or undrafted guys that they brought in. Like, there's only a couple guys that have played for another team, which is that's how you do it. That's the model for building a football team. This is the Packers, like what they do. And who they took a couple years ago. They took Nick, the USC linebacker. Boy, I can't remember his name. He was a player I kind of like. I think it was in 2012. He was all right. But I think they were picking like 25 or whatever. And I haven't watched a ton of him yet. But I feel like maybe that one wasn't like a greatest pick. I think they also they took a tackle early. Was that Newhouse? But these are all late first round picks, so it's like, but everybody has bad draft picks, but they hit on just as many guys, and that's what you need to do. You don't have to see. And when if I'm taking a guy in the first round, my first overall pick, I want a guy who is low, not low anything. I want a high floor. That's what I want. I want a guy who's solid, safe, the safest guy with the biggest ceiling. That's the guy who I want. That's my player I want. Like in 2011, that was Von Miller. He was the safest player with the highest ceiling. Marcel Darius was very good. But Von Miller's safest player, the highest ceiling. But it's you can talk about really we should talk about Trent Richardson. And Trent Richardson was awesome at Alabama. You will watch Alabama. Go watch Alabama. Go watch 2010, 2011. Go watch those seasons and watch them tear it up, man. But I will say this. You watch those, I think it was 2011. They played LSU in the championship game. I was watching that game with my buddy Ed, and as good as Trent Richardson looked in the game, Eddie Lacy looked better. And I remember thinking it then, and that's probably when I should have put two and two together, that if there's another player on the same team that can look better, then how good is he actually going to be in the NFL? Because what are the chances that Alabama has two running backs that are that good? And that's kind of how I feel about TJ Yeldon. Now everybody is getting on the TJ Yeldon bandwagon, but I think they're way smarter about it this time, and the round value for TJ Yeldon is much more appropriate than it was for Trent Richardson. But I remember getting really excited about TJ Yeldon when I first watched him as a freshman. The first guy I remember thinking, wow, this is like DeMarco Murray, like Adrian Peterson-esque. He just looked like this upright Oklahoma running back, except for he played for Alabama. But he's big. He moved very quick. As a freshman, I remember thinking, wow, this guy could be the next. He could be a serious talent, and you wonder how much of that is actually him and how much of that is the talent that is around him. Because the NFL is a different game, and guys are a lot faster in the NFL, and they're a lot smarter too. NFL starters are not dumb. They know where they need to be before, they need to be there. So they know where to go. In college, you're playing with a lot of guys who are athletically gifted, but they're not great, smart, instinctual football players. So they're making mistakes. And in the NFL, there's just not a lot of room for error. And the guys that screw up, they don't last as starters. So everybody in the NFL is that much better. We'll see. I don't want to say soured on TJ Yeldon, but I really softened. There's just so many other running backs that I get excited about this year. Like, I am crazy about Josh Robinson. All I ever saw from Josh Robinson was production. And I thought their offensive line kind of sucked. I mean, people want to talk about Dylan Day, and he's a decent center, but Clausell, I think he's a left tackle. And then my favorite guy on the offensive line was Ben Beck with the guard. But their offensive line wasn't nothing like crazy great. But Josh Robinson consistently broke tackles and ran around and through guys. He didn't shy away from contact either. And he never went down after first contact. I don't know why no one's talking about Josh Robinson. Like, to me, he's a second round. Like, you have to take him in the second or third round. I don't think if he's there on day 3, someone's getting a really good player, I think. And, I can't honestly say that I've sat and this is the thing is like if you watch tape, if you were to do this casually, if you didn't watch the games during the season, I watched the games during the season. I saw Mississippi State play at least 6 times this year. where I watched every snap of the game. And I watched it about like 3 feet away from the screen too. I like to sit really close to the screen, and then I DVR them, and I go back and watch them over and over again. You know, a lot of times when I see something that sticks out to me. But Josh Robinson just is always making plays in the SEC. We've seen it every time. These backs that are talented in the SEC, Vic Ballard, Trey Mason, just the last couple years, they produce in the SEC. Josh Robinson produced in the SEC. Cameron Artis-Payne produced in the SEC. I get excited about those guys. And no, last year you had Jeremy Hill, who probably would have produced in the SEC if he didn't have so many other players on his team, you know, also taking carries away. I mean, Alfred Blue is there, but these are also guys that are in the NFL. That's crazy. LSU actually did have players that were just in the NFL. I was never nuts about LSU's. I mean, Terrence McGee, Alfred Blue, and then Jeremy Hill. But Hill had his off-field concerns. God, he's built perfect, though, for running back. You want to talk about great size, height, weight, perfect for running back. Like, that is ideal for an every down back. That's what you want, Jeremy Hill. But never really, I feel like never really getting a rhythm at LSU to where he could really showcase the run he was. I think you could see parts of it. Like if he had, and that's where Josh Robinson was lucky and playing for Mississippi State, because he was pretty much the featured back. Even Cameron Artis-Payne had to compete with Corey Grant this past season. And man, people are going nuts about Corey Grant because he ran like a 4.28. Corey Grant is not Cameron Artis-Payne. And Cameron Artis-Payne was the starter and got a majority of the snaps for a reason. You can get excited about Corey Grant. He is okay. I can't ever see him. I can never see him being more than a role player in the NFL, though. You know, like he's not special to me. Man, Auburn does have some good players. And it was interesting that Duke Williams, the receiver, DeQuell Williams, went back for his senior season. Sammy Coates' teammate, came out for the draft. It was interesting that Duke went back. That's probably good. He could have came out, though. He's really going to do, he'll be one of the top receivers in the draft next year. Just because there's not, it depends what juniors come out, but clearly he's going to be the top senior or one of the top senior receivers in the draft next year. I was kind of surprised but I'm not surprised, but like, I'm glad that Chris Frost went back, but I think he could have came out too. The linebacker. Casanova McKenzie was their other linebacker. So they had some pretty good linebackers, and they're going to be good this year again. I really don't know much about Jeremy Johnson. They have another quarterback, though, a different guy that's not Jeremy Johnson. I think he's more of a passer, like a pocket passer, but I don't remember his name. I feel like all I ever saw of him was high school stuff. I don't remember his name right now. But Auburn, I don't know. Auburn's going to have a lot to compete with next year in the SEC. I really think Tennessee is going to take the next step forward. I mean, if you're looking for a real big mover in the SEC next year, Tennessee, for sure. And yeah, man, you got to get excited about Tennessee. I mean, they just are loaded. And the young talent they're bringing in is ridiculous on defense. Like the defensive line is going to be amazing next year. Derek Barnett, Derek Barnett's the defensive end for Tennessee. As a freshman, I tell you what, man, he's special. Honestly, probably the best defensive end as a freshman last year. I know, don't even get me. I know Myles Garrett, and I know Kamoko Toure, and I know all the other guys too. I have a list of them. But Derek Barnett was just outstanding last year. 6'3", 267. Got a good frame too. This guy might end up playing defensive tackle in the NFL. He's just nasty. Derek Barnett. Let's see who's back next year for them. The linebackers, Kurt Magott and Jalen Reeves-Maybin, Jacob Johnson too, the freshman from last season. But they got linebackers coming in too this coming year. I was watching an Army All-American game. And there was a linebacker in that game for Tennessee. I think it was that one. I don't know. I have a list. See, if I actually like plan something out for this, I could probably do like a real show. Or if I just had someone else to talk to. Brian Randolph, safety, and Cam Sutton. Yeah. Randolph will come up. I mean, well, he's a senior next year. He'll be in the draft. He'll be one of the safeties people are talking about. Cam Sutton is going to be a junior next year, and he got better, way better. And he is a guy that needs to be put up there with the likes of, Brennan Hargreaves and Will Redmond and who are the other SEC corners? Well, Jamal Adams, a freshman from LSU, Tre'Davious White, I think he was a sophomore from LSU. Tony Connor, safety, Mississippi. Who else in the LSU? We talk LSU corners. Justin Coleman was that guy last year, right? I mean, you could see that. I saw that a long time coming. He's going to be pretty good next year, not in the SEC, but the ACC. I think Duke is really going to start to come on next year. I mean, from what I've seen, they're getting some players in recruiting. Fred Taylor from Kentucky, that's the guy to kind of – he'll be a senior next year. I think he's kind of underrated, but definitely a guy I'm going to watch next season. I'll definitely watch Fred Taylor for Kentucky. AJ Stamps I thought he made a lot of nice plays this year for the Wildcats. But, I mean, as a whole, the Wildcats defense will give up some big plays. Josh Forrest will also be a senior next year. Matt Elam he's intriguing. Giant freshman nose tackle. So we'll see. I only saw him play a handful of snaps this year. Like, I don't think he played a ton. Garrett Johnson made some nice plays on offense for them, the wide receiver. And JoJo Kemp, like if you watch that game against, what was it, South Carolina? Oh my God, they were chanting his name at the end of the game. They're JoJo, JoJo, JoJo. Like the fans loved it. He was awesome in that game. Like he's very talented. I forgot they got Boom Williams. He was a freshman last year. And then Michael Horton. But I really also Kentucky would be interesting this year. I also want to watch Patrick Tolles take another step forward. I like kind of what I see from Patrick Tolles. The worst part about me for Tolles is that I don't think he puts enough zip on the ball. I think he puts too much air under his ball. And I like to see him get his ball down, the path down with like a more velocity. Like I think he has the arm for the velocity. Like, I think he's got a pretty decent arm, but he like puts so much under the ball, so much air under the ball, which on deep balls he can throw a nice deep ball. But I feel like sometimes it floats on him and he'll overthrow receivers or he's a little inaccurate. So I'm really looking for him to take the next step this year. Patrick Tolles, that's who we're talking about. He's the junior quarterback for the Wildcats. Kentucky Wildcats. Let's see. Yep. Regiment. Freshman, Kentucky, 96. Some reason the name seems familiar. I might have wrote something down about him, but I don't remember it, to be honest. Oh, I was going to say Georgia's corners. Then I was thinking Georgia Tech's corners because that's where it's at. But Georgia had a freshman last year. Couple of them, Aaron Davis and Malcolm Parrish. I remember Aaron Davis was the guy that stuck out early in the year for me. Man, they are loaded. I'm looking at their roster. Lorenzo Carter is going to have a nice season this year. He really had some big splash plays, kind of similar to what Leonard Floyd did his freshman year. But I don't think I feel like people don't talk about Lorenzo Carter the same way that they talked about Lorenzo Floyd last year. Jordan Jenkins will be a senior. I thought Marlo Herrera was one of the most underrated linebackers. But, I kind of wonder, was that a product of him playing with so many good players around him? I don't know, man. He's always around the ball. He was always making a lot of plays. Marlo Herrera always was the guy that jumped up for me before Raemick Wilson, that's for sure. Always got excited about Herrera. Oh, be interesting. I don't know what's going on with their quarterback situation. Bryce Ramsey. I don't know if they brought in anyone else. The freshman tight end was all right. Jeb Blazevich. He's not the best freshman tight end I saw last year. Who was? The Boise State's kid, Jake Rowe, he was pretty good. There was some other. I think the tight end that I'm going to be paying most attention to is getting no love right now is Jake Doozy from Iowa. He really stood out to me when I watched Iowa, their bowl game from 2 years ago. So, like, I kind of was watching Jake Doozy last year. I didn't watch a ton of Iowa. And I like what I seen from Rudock, too. Like, and CJ Beathard. Like they both were kind of like not great, but like I think that they could be very capable in college. I'm really excited for Rudock. I guess he's going to be transferring to Michigan, which is if he's gotten better than he was at Iowa, watch out. He will start for Michigan. Um, I've heard a lot about Shane Morris in the spring. I feel like I've heard a lot about Shane Morris every spring. I remember last spring when I watched Michigan, like Wilton Spate really kind of stood out for as a freshman. They have two more freshmen in this year, Alex Malzone and Zach Gentry. And I've seen Gentry. I haven't seen a lot of Malzone. I don't watch a ton of Michigan, only because my boss like is crazy about Michigan, so we'll talk about them a lot. But I think he likes Shane Morris more than I do. I've never Shane Morris, my like I don't know. For some reason, like I always look at guys as like, either you're like an NFL quarterback or you're not. And he never like when I first watch him, I just don't he doesn't scream NFL to me. Oh yeah, I forgot about it. Speaking of Michigan and NFL quarterbacks, well, if you watch the Buffalo Wild Wings Bowl from a couple years ago, Jake Waters, who is going to be eligible for this year's draft, just ripped apart Michigan 2 years ago. Him and Tyler Lockett just destroyed Michigan. I mean, it was embarrassing. Lockett had like 3 touchdowns, but watch Waters in that game, man. He makes a lot of really nice throws in that game, and he's a guy that he's pretty much getting overlooked. I would love to bring Jake Waters into my system. He is mobile. Okay, so just imagine Johnny Manziel that is willing to stay in the pocket and he can make all the throws. I would rather have him I think he's better than Connie Shaw and Johnny Manziel. He doesn't make as many splash plays as Johnny does. I think he's more ready for the NFL than Johnny Manziel is. He might not be as gifted as Johnny Manziel. You think he's more ready for the NFL though? He is a JUCO transfer. So watch out for Jake Waters this year. Who knows? I've been on Jake Waters bandwagon. I've been leading that one in Garrett Grayson since freaking June. Go back and look on Twitter at Jaguars130. Talking in June about Garrett Grayson and Jake Waters. And I was half right, and I still think I'm right on Jake Waters. I think he can totally play in the NFL. Will he ever be a franchise quarterback? Who knows? Could he be? I think it's possible. Do I think it's very likely? No, I don't think it's very likely. Nor do I even think it's likely. But I do think he can play in the NFL. It all just depends, and see, that's the thing about the draft. It depends what situation you fall into. Fall in the right situation could be good. A lot of players can be good. I've been on here for 2 hours now. I think we've had some people jump on and off watching it. But I love talking about this stuff. We can talk about anything, college football or NFL, football related. I'd love to talk about it. Any of it. I guess that's going to do it for me today. Man, I love college football so much, you guys. Nelson Spruce had 106 catches for 1,198 yards and 12 touchdowns last year. 100 yards a game. Literally damn near identical stats to Nelson Aguilar. Damn near identical. Both had 12 touchdowns. Both had over 100 catches. Both averaged about 100 yards a game. One plays for USC, one plays for Colorado. Both went up against pretty much the same defenses, though. One had a better quarterback than the other. Tells you a little bit about Nelson Spruce. I like Nelson Aguilar. I think he's got some really good traits. I don't think he's any better than Marquise Lee was, though, coming out. Maybe he's different, though. I think Marquise Lee was like a better receiver over the middle. But, like, maybe that's just because he had to be this last year, the last year before, after Robert Woods left. But I don't know. They're different receivers. Nelson Aguilar wins in certain places. He's not my favorite receiver in the draft. He's not really not even my top 5, but he does have like some really nice plays sometimes. You just look and you go, wow. Vince Mailey system. Not a fan. Don't care about Mailey. Wouldn't draft him. Really wouldn't draft him. Not my guy. There's a lot of guys in this draft I just wouldn't touch. I wouldn't touch Eric Armstead. Wouldn't do it. Not in the first round. Not what they're talking about. I don't think I would touch Malcolm Brown in the first round. There's so many. I would love, and maybe I will do this tomorrow. Maybe I'll just have a whole show where I'll just talk about players that are overvalued and players that are undervalued. That'd be pretty good. I think people might like that. But no one's going to sit and watch these videos for 2 hours. And they're not structured. They're all over the place. So I need to learn what the hell I'm doing. Cam Worthy, guys. East Carolina. Not named Justin Hardy. Very, very good. Very, very good wide receivers there at East Carolina. There's another one coming too. Number 88. Trayvon Brown, I believe it is. It'll be interesting. So anyway, until later, watch some football, you guys, and then come back and talk. I love it. Have a good night.